Hello, everyone. We are in week 5 of our Lenten meditation immersion. And today I'd like to take one phrase that is attributed to Jesus. It is, like most of the phrases, quite provocative. The Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. I want to read the context of that passage from Matthew chapter 8. So, earlier on in chapter 8, we have the story of healing. He's healing a lot of people. Starting in chapter 8, he heals a man with leprosy. Then after that, he heals the servant of a centurion. That's the centurion that said, I don't need you to come, just say the word. And Jesus proclaims his great faith. And then they have the note that Jesus heals many. He heals Peter's mother-in-law, and he heals many others. He seems to be surrounded by people coming to him, like flocking to him to be healed. So that prefaces this 4-verse passage. And in my translation that I found online, it has a heading, and the heading says, The Cost of Following Jesus. So that word, that phrase that is the title of our reflection, comes under that heading, the cost of following Jesus. When Jesus saw the crowd around him, he gave orders to cross to the other side of the lake. Then a teacher of the law came to him and said, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. Jesus replied, Foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to rest his head. Another disciple said to him, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. But Jesus told him, Follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. Now, the passage that comes after that is how Jesus calms the storm. So as you may know, if you're familiar with that story, it's a pretty dramatic example of the effortlessness with which Jesus can manipulate the elements. So I love, love, love that statement. In fact, I would say probably on a personal level, that's a big part of my own spirituality. I think it's a part of every human being's spirituality, this having no place to lay our heads when we get into the reflection. But we also have unique ways that our path teaches us where can we rest and where do we not want to lay false security on resting. For me, the impermanence of life and of events and of things that are a part of my life has been a big theme from my earliest years. It's one of my learning grounds, is the experience of the fullness of love in this creation and then the loss on some level. So the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Now, when we look at statements like this, and even the follow me and let the dead bury their dead, it could be tempting to take that only on a material, literal level and make it a universal statement. But that, I believe, would be a grave misunderstanding, to make it literal, black and white, and to make it then universal, absolute. Black and white, and then absolute. Why is that tricky? Because in life, we are evolving as consciousness. We are evolving in our own personal development. And therefore, the circumstances are always evolving. And our freedom doesn't lie in having a black and white absolute stance. Our freedom lies in continuing to evolve, where we only rest into what is truly unchanging and continually change with what is changing. I give you an optional homework piece to reflect back on your life and reflect back on truth, one truth that you held at some point in your life that's no longer true for you. And it could be, if you have the time for writing, it could be a great opportunity to see how you experienced illumination or healing. And the healthy progression, I believe, isn't saying that something is bad. So when we believe a truth that then falls short of truth for us as we continue to grow and change and evolve, it's not about that being bad. It's what it was in the time. And our freedom, again, lies with staying dynamic with the moment. We could look at this: foxes have dens and birds have nests, but I have nowhere to lay my head, as saying, if you follow me, you're not going to have a home anymore. You're not going to have material stability anymore. And I believe that would be a gross misunderstanding and even lead us to a dualistic perspective that to go without everything material is more holy. To have that level of detachment is more spiritual than if you do have material things. What Jesus is pointing to, I believe, is that he was so resting only in the inner resource of his being and his call and how his call led him, that everything else was outside of that. Everything else simply was or wasn't. Simply was or wasn't. And I would imagine, I'm going to put a little of Kimberly's interpretation in here. I would imagine that when Jesus got to spend time with Mary, his mother, I bet he felt home and rest. Now, I'm just imagining and conjecturing coming from my own relationship with Jesus and Mary. So I don't think Jesus is saying that there is in this world no moment of rest in the embrace of a loved one or in a good meal or in a place we call home. What he's pointing to is that the cost of awakening is letting go of the leaning into these to provide what cannot be provided for, and that is unchanging security. We see that material things come into form and die. This happens with our fingernails. It happens with our hair, and it happens globally with climate. It happens socially with our political systems and our social systems in countries. Look, when they were building Rome and Rome fell, and they were building it in a way that it would never fall. So he's letting us know that for him, the cost was realizing that there's no place to lay his head, meaning that the head aspect, the knowing aspect, could not rest in anything that was changing, that was temporary. It could rest in the temporary from an unchanging place. That may sound a little tricky, right? But I'm going to read you a poem in just a second. I want to get to the second part of that passage where he says, "Follow me and let the dead bury their dead." That too could be misinterpreted, that to live a spiritual life is to renounce all relationships, our blood relationships. And I don't believe that that's what's meant here. What is meant here is that, let me back up just a moment. And again, this is a Kimberly interpretation. I want you to draw forward what's true for you, because I can shine a mirror and then you can say, oh, that's not true for me, or that is true for me. What I believe is Jesus was looking at this person that asked to go bury his father, and he saw into his heart, and he spoke to what was an undue attachment there. What's beautiful about our paths is each one of us deserves the special attention to be attenuating the moment and the reality of our state and what's needed. I don't believe this response is making some universal anecdote or dogma, but he was speaking to the disciple who had an over attachment to something, was saying, you can't put what is dead before what is alive. You can't hold on to what is not true stability in order to find stability. I had a wonderful colleague who had a great workshop that she would teach to corporations, and it's brilliant. And she was so funny. Her whole shtick was very humorous. So that's how she helped the corporate groups she worked with learn and grow. And the name of her, I think it's a book and not just a workshop, but the name of the book and the workshop is If Your Horse is Dead, Get Off. And I think that's what Jesus is speaking to here. That's what Jesus is speaking to here. We have, on this note, a great example in all the mystics, but I'm going to draw upon the beloved John of the Cross for this. And I want to read one of his poems. All right. And the title of this is Prayer of an Enamored Soul. He has, on a soul level, he has come to union with the divine. And this is the prayer that comes forward. Mine are the heavens, and mine is the earth. Mine are the people, the righteous are mine, and mine are the sinners. The angels are mine, and the mother of God, and all things are mine. And God himself, herself, is mine and for me. For Christ is mine and all for me. What then do you ask for and seek, my soul? Yours is all this, and it is all for you. Now, you want to talk about liberation, right? I would say that's a pretty liberating moment expressed there. And Jesus, like many other enlightened and mystic ones, reveals one of the costs to us. We have to accept that we cannot lay our head to rest upon what is not truly unchanging. So for today's practice, I thought it might be nice to return to a breath practice. Our body gives us all these opportunities to put these lessons into practice for ourselves. So does any form of practice that's contemplative. As many of you know, body has not been my main entry point. And I know you're hearing a little one chirp here. I'm caring for a beautiful little parrot called Zelda. And Zelda likes to be a part of things. So she's sitting right behind the screen and she's just adding in a little bit of her wisdom for us. But body, for all human beings, is a tool that's right there. So let's say you did lose everything. You lost all your money and your home and your family and your friends, and you would have your body. You may not be able to buy a massage or sign up for a course, but you have your body. You have your breath. You have your heartbeat. You have your fingers. You have a school right here that can help the surrender, help pay the costs for what's truly satisfying. So that's why I'd like to do the breath. Now, earlier on in our series, I had you stand and we were doing a deep internal breath using the nose if you can. You might not be able to if you're stuffed, but if you can breathe in and out of the nose, do. And you're pulling the breath from below the belly button. So even though the body's expanding and contracting like this, and air is going in and out like this, the focus is inhaling up to the third eye or the crown, exhaling back down. And we're simply going to enter into a beautiful time of breath and see if you can rest into the breath. An amazing thing about resting into the breath, because it speaks symbolically to what we're talking about here on a wholly embodied level, is the breath. You can rest into the breath, and yet you can't grasp the breath as though it's a possession, right? If you rest in the breath, you can't go, okay, I got you now. But you can rest continually in the breath and realize what John of the Cross was saying, that the breath is all yours and that you are given all the breath. It can relax anxiety, can't it? Bringing that mantra, the breath is all yours and the breath is for you. And yours is the breath. You are the breath. So you could even form a little mantra as we do this inhale and exhale. So if you'd like to, oh breath, you are mine. Oh breath, I am yours. You could say that internally if you want with the breath, or you could just enjoy the resting in it. So it's got that strange, okay, I'm resting in the breath, and yet it's a bit spacious, isn't it? What am I actually resting in? There we go. Okay. So, Zelda, are you going to help us here? Okay, good. Good. Zelda's going to breathe along with us. I invite you to close your eyes. This is going to be a little extended. We're going to do 8 full minutes. And bring your focus to the breath. For right now, just noticing the breath. Now bring the focus a few inches below the belly button. And after the next exhale, focus the inhale of figuratively drawing the breath up the spine, making a slight noise in the back of the throat and in the nasal passages, all the way up to the crown or the third eye, and exhaling from the crown back down to that point below the belly button. Rest in this movement. If it helps to have that mantra on the inhale, silently say to the breath, "O breath, you are mine." And on the exhale, "O breath, I am yours." O breath, you are mine. O breath, I am yours. O breath, you are mine. O breath, I am yours. Continue with or without the mantra, resting in the sound, in the air, in the involuntary quality of the breath. And if you move away from being with the breath, just simply return. we begin to bring this resting to a close. Take one more full breath. And bring the palms together in front of the heart. To open your eyes with namaste. Namaste. Have a wonderful day.